everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the World Magic Cup here from the amazing Spanish city of Barcelona. Rich Hagan alongside Pro Tour historian Brian David Marshall and your Pro Tour Hall of Famer Randy Buehler, setting the scene for an amazing day 2 after a fairly startling day 1. Randy, what's your takeaway from the first 24 hours of carnage at the World Magic Cup?
Carnage is the right word. I still can't believe the number of teams that have failed to make day 2, headlined, of course, by the United States and Canada. Everyone had those on their short list for Sunday play. We're not going to see either of them on Saturday.
Even their short list dark horse teams like Hungary, also gone.
Israel gone, Spain gone,
South
no
Korea.
Home country, no South Korea.
Yeah.
Carnage was the right word.
It was pretty brutal.
It's a crazy day.
And that's on the day when, really, because it's traditional Swiss play, you would expect the most of the best teams to rise to the top. Today, we have pool play when anything can happen. So crazy stuff on day 1. BDM, what was your takeaway from day 1?
Well, you know, it wasn't all the favorites. The 3 countries that have won the World Magic Cup, Chinese Taipei, France, and Denmark, are still all alive. The dream of a double World Magic Cup champion is still very much in play. In the entire history of world team competition, only 3 teams have won a world title more than once.
And two of those are obvious, USA and Japan. Who's the third?
Germany.
Oh, wow, Daniel Zink and co, like 2003.
And Kai Bude.
All right, sure.
And co.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah. Huh.
So there's still, there's still this opportunity for one of the, our first World Magic Cup repeat champion and a 4th World Team Competition repeat champion.
I'll throw Japan in there, too. It's another team that is very much alive and looking good.
Oh, absolutely.
Finally, Yuya Watanabe finally got a team through to day 2. He's got a lot of help now. I think they can make a serious run.
For sure. So we've talked about some teams that are out, some teams that are still alive, but how about the teams that set the pace? Belarus and Macedonia. Belarus, captained by Alexei Oromianak, played 1 Pro Tour, 1 and 7. Macedonia, 3 of them have played at Pro Tour, combined 34% win rate. And these were the top 2 teams yesterday. They got to 5-0, looked at each other across a table, went, "Are you 5-0 as well? Hey, how about we shake hands and be number 1 seeds tomorrow?" What an amazing feeling that had to have been. They really must have gone to bed going, "That went well."
You know, you talk about, maybe the lack of Pro Tour experience for those teams, but when I talked to Martin Nanek from Macedonia yesterday, he said, "I feel confident that none of the big teams put in as much work for this event as I did and my team did. This is all we've been doing. This has been our focus. This is our Pro Tour. Just working with a lot of teams in his region, and just, really super emotional to have not only gotten through to day 2, but to be on the top of the standings."
Well, if you weren't with us yesterday, shame on you. You missed a thriller. But we're going to take you through what yesterday held in store in terms of the formats and what you're going to see over the weekend. So, BDM, what did we do yesterday to turn 73 countries into 32?
Well, we started with Team Sealed. We started with 12 packs of Battle for Zendikar. Each team had to build 3 decks. Out of those packs, 40 card minimum decks, and then we played 3 rounds of Swiss play with, team against team. And then from there, we moved on to Team Unified Standard. Of course, no overlap beyond 4 cards in Standard between any of the 3 decks. We played 4 rounds of that, and then we took the top 32 teams and we advanced them to day 2.
All right, so Randy, what do we start with this morning?
Well, it's more Team Sealed. The formats today are fairly similar to what we saw yesterday. We're going to start with Team Sealed. We're going to then go into Unified Standard. But the pool play is fairly different. Instead of, a Swiss tournament where you're always playing people with the same record, what happens today is that you're in a pool with 3 other countries. So the 4 of you will just play a round robin. Everybody plays everybody else once. The top 2 of those 4 get to come back and play again this afternoon.
Would either of you like to say seeding matters at this point? Or
no, we were waiting for you.
Seeding matters. Basically, the bottom line there, if 2 or more teams are tied, for example, at 2 wins and 1 loss, whoever was the highest seed coming into the group gets the nod to advance. It's not no opponent match win percentage. It's just straightforward. If you're a number 1 or 2 seed, 2-1 is enough for certain. And if you're a 3 or 4 seed, might easily not be. You really want to win all your matches if you're a 3 and 4.
And the way it worked is, so if you look at the first pod, it's 1, 16, 17, and 32 in the standings.
Right.
So if you're the number 1 seed coming in, you should be in great shape throughout today.
I will say at the same time, though, the seedings are only a tiebreaker. It is very much an anything can happen format. You look at Greece last year snuck in the very last spot, 32nd overall. They were the 4 seed in their first pool, and they just kept winning.
So they got to feel really good being the 29th seed today.
Exactly, yeah.
So much better than last year. All right, BDM, we get to lunchtime. We get from 32 down to 16. What happens in the afternoon?
Well, you know what? Then we reseed 4 pools. So we take the top 16 teams, two teams from each pool, and we reseed them, and we create 4 pools. So 1, 16, 8, and 9, and down the line. And we're going to play 3 rounds of Team Unified Standard.
And 16 will then become 8.
And again, it's the same thing. Seeding matters. Top 2 teams from each pool will advance to Sunday.
Okay, and Sunday, what does that look like, Randy?
Sunday is going to look like a normal sort of Pro Tour Sunday. We've got 8 teams, and we've got a top 8. We're just going to watch every single match, which is going to be awesome. We're going to run them one after the other, watch all of the teams battle until we've got a winner by the end of Sunday. Unified Standard is the format for Sunday, so we'll be done with the Team Sealed portion of the festivities. We'll just be playing Standard to see who wins the World Magic Cup.
And in addition to an actual World Magic Cup, which, by the way, is a stunning trophy, what do people get, BDM, if they climb the mountain?
Well, there's $250,000 in prizes on the line this weekend. $12,000 a player for the winning team. Those 8 pro points, pretty big as well. For a lot of these teams, they're sort of like almost finish line is just getting to Sunday, because what that is an on-ramp to the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
For the 8 teams.
That is a very big deal.
So there'll be a pro or on each team generally. But there's a lot of times where 2 or even 3 of those players are not qualified for the Pro Tour, and they're going to get to play in Atlanta. It's a big deal for a lot of countries. I know both Belarus and Macedonia are very excited about the opportunity to get to the Pro Tour here for members of their team.
If you're sitting at home thinking, I wish I was playing in this, Randy, how do you go about getting into the World Magic Cup?
Pretty straightforward. There are 3 World Magic Cup qualifiers in every country. Win one of them.
Okay. And what's the hard route? Because that's the easy route.
Or earn more pro points than anybody else in your country.
Right. Okay.
And I mean, depending on the country, that can be really hard, or that can be, a couple of pro points.
The threshold can be a little lower.
Right. Yeah, I mean, get to the Pro Tour, earn pro points. Whoever's got the most pro points in each country gets an automatic seat on the team and gets to be the captain.
All right, so this morning it's Team Sealed, but that's, as we've been discussing, kind of a super-powered draft format mini constructed, because there's so many of particular commons that get into your pool. We're going to look at the 10 color pairs now for you in the draft archetypes, things you've been drafting at Friday Night Magic at your local store, and of course on Magic Online. How have they gone up or down in value once you get into this Team Sealed format? Let's take a look. We're going to rattle through these very quickly and see what people did. So White Blue, Awaken Tempo, Randy, popular, incredibly popular, or near universal?
I think it's incredibly popular. I'll take the middle option there. Everybody is going to lay out a blue-white Flyers deck, and they're going to look in there. They're going to see whether that's one of the right decks. There's always a version of this deck available in your sealed pool. I mean, you could just line up the blue cards, and then you're always going to have some Awaken, you're always going to have some Flyers. Maybe Fortified Rampart can be kind of nice because it's sort of the perfect 2-drop that can flesh the curve out. You're going to see a lot of people who are at least considering this deck, and many of them will in fact pull the trigger and have it out as one of their 3.
BDM, up next is Blue-Black. So the big question is it in jest or is it just devoid?
It really depends on the pool. I've seen a few of both looking out on the floor today. Certainly, a deck with 3 Merc Striders and, multiple Benthic Infiltrators in one case. In other cases, I saw people just playing it as a Blue-Black Flyers deck. They were like, oh, okay, here's a couple blue Flyers I'll put in at 4. Here's this. I've got a Drowner of Hope at the end. It can be a little of both.
Okay, black-red is up next. This is one of the aggro archetypes, devoid aggro, Randy.
Yeah, this is a great deck when it's there. You know, if you can get Vile Aggregates, Ruination Guides, all of a sudden those Eldrazi Sky Spawners are more than just a 2/1 flyer. It's also...
Black-red, though.
Oh, sorry, black-red. The aggro deck, you're going to have a devoid deck. This is why these all kind of blur together in a lot of people's minds. Is it black-red? Is it blue-black? Is it blue-red? You're going to have one of those decks for sure. The question is, which is the best way to take advantage of all of those cards?
And is your red deep enough to split? Because a lot of times you want it in your red-white allies deck.
Well, it's going to split one way or the other, because the devoid cards, and then there's the not devoid cards.
Well, some place for the not devoid cards is red-green. This is Landfall Aggro BDM. This feels like one of the decks that went up hugely in value yesterday.
You know, it's funny, it was red-green landfall, but it was also a lot of times red-green converge is what I saw. I didn't see this advertised, but I believe Woodland Wanderer is the official promo card of the World Magic Cup, because it seemed like every team had one today.
Wow.
So, you know, and you saw a lot of teams building around a green-red shell, some good removal, some good mana fixing, and then, you know, maybe get a 5/5 or 6/6 Woodland Wanderer into play on turn 3.
Let's see if we can find a place for green with green-white, the kind of go-wide strategy. Randy?
Yeah, sometimes, especially if you've got the uncommons and the rares. This is one where I think the stock is down. I mean, not that the stock in Booster Draft is super high for the green-white deck, but I think that in Team Sealed, it's rare that this winds up being the right strategy. Sometimes, if you get the right uncommons and rares, it can certainly come together, usually very much as a go-wide deck rather than an ally deck.
Right. Talking of allies, BDM, black-white and life gain.
Yeah, I mean, we did a build yesterday where we built a sealed pool, and we had multiple Calastri healers, multiple Bloodbond vampires, and it was a pretty powerful deck to build if the cards are there. And that's one of the things that's really great about the Team Sealed format, because you get a lot to look down, a lot of different avenues. You're like, oh, this deck is here, I can go here, and then you figure out the other decks, and that's a very powerful strategy when it's available.
Well, here's another very, very powerful strategy when it's available, and it often is, Randy, blue-red.
Yeah, it's one of the options for Devoid. Can tend toward a colorless control deck. The Herald of Kozilek in particular can tend it toward a ramp deck where you're sort of making stuff cheaper and building all the way up the curve. It just comes down to which cards you get opened, and that's definitely one of the very powerful options that people are hoping will be available to them.
There's a triple Herald of Kozilek deck out on the floor right now. Triple Herald of Kozilek and Gruesome Slaughter.
Oh, jeez.
Wow. So that's a pretty exciting one. Black-green is up next. So this is the idea of tokens, the scions, and then sacrifice. So BDM, where does this lie?
Well, this is the deck where you're like, wow, I've got these really powerful Eldrazi spells. How am I going to get there? And a lot of times that's by going wide with the Eldrazi scions. Although interestingly, I saw a green-black beatdown deck.
Wow.
Being built today out on the floor.
Huh.
So landfall, black removal, and just like these are the creatures that I have that curve out the best, and I'm going to beat down with that. Okay. I wasn't expecting to see that.
We thought there would be a lot of red-white ally decks coming into the weekend, and Randy, that's not necessarily proved to be true.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the best ally strategy has proven to be the black-white life gain. And now, some of the gold allies that you get in red-white are so powerful that they wind up being a splash. It winds up black-white anyway, maybe I'll throw a little bit of red into my black-white life gain deck and get some of those powerful allies. But the core red-white, you rarely get the critical mass. And in particular, you rarely get the aggressive curve that you need to actually take advantage of those synergies.
And our last pair is green-blue, BDM.
Wow, perfect. This is actually often a converge color. Although, again, it seems like green-red has been the base for the converge decks that we've seen this weekend. But green-blue, you get something like an Exert Influence, you get a Woodland Wanderer. You really want to do that, and also you can, you can put those blue-white Awaken cards, the Clutch of Currents, and those cards into a green-blue deck where you're curving out with some green creatures and then bouncing and sneaking your way through.
All right, so those are the archetypes that the players have been fiddling around. The build is almost done. They had 70 minutes this morning to build their 3 decks. We should mention what the 4th player is doing, BDM.
Coaching, cheerleading, getting coffee, depends on where the teams are, but in general, each team has 4 players to fit into 3 seats, so 1 player will sit out and gets to shift between the 3 players and offer guidance or emotional support.
All right, well, we had a chance to go out onto the floor and watch the 32 teams build. So while the players get ready for round 1 of pool play, we're going to send you to that, and we'll see you back here in just a few minutes. Okay, so here we go at the World Magic Cup. It's day 2, it's pool play. 8 groups of 4. Let's meet the 32 teams that are still left standing. We're going to begin with Iceland here. Einar Baldvinsson, the captain, only 300,000 in the population. That's a very small Magic community as well, but they have made it in today too. Top 8 in 2013. And on the far side of them, you've got Team Sweden, led, of course, by Joel Larsson. And the other 3 players, they don't have a Pro Tour appearance between them yet, but Joel still seems to be getting the business done. They are the 2nd seed in Group A. This is Paulo Vida Dama da Rosa of Brazil. He's led the team to another day 2. There's a Grand Prix top 8 for Lucas Bertu on that team, Bruno Muller and Leonardo de Castro, the rest of that team. And then you see Alexander Hotman. Now, he's got 2 Grand Prix top 8s to his name. The German team, very experienced as a group, led, of course, by Christian Seibold, who is a Grand Prix team winner in this very room at Grand Prix Barcelona a couple of years ago. Here's the Polish flag, and there's Maciej Janik leading the Polish team. They're in Group F, the 2nd seed. Janik, the only one with Pro Tour experience. And on the far side of them, building their deck, Chapman Sim from the coverage team in the blue shirt on the far side. You see him there. And along with Jeffrey Chan and Felix Leon, plenty of Pro Tour experience for Team Singapore. On this side of the table, we've got Team Paraguay here. A tremendous performance by them. They are the #1 seed in Group G. So 2-1 would see them through to the top 16. And then on the far side, 2 top 16s. For Ukraine historically at the World Magic Cup. Oleg Plisov is the captain for them. So that's the first 8 teams done. Let's move you along as we head on down. And here is Team Chile with the former Rookie of the Year, Felipe Tapia Becerra there. Patricio Roman also has Pro Tour experience. And on the far side of them, one of the great stories of the World Magic Cup so far, it's Macedonia. They are the top seeds in Pool B, so they will need 2-1 to advance. They've had an incredible run to be one of the top seeds. Fantastic appearance by them. Next up, here's the Thailand national team. And they have made 3 day 2s now, which is a fantastic achievement for them. And on the far side, one of the red hot favorites here in this competition, it's Japan. Astonishingly, it's their only day 2, the first WMC day 2, but you see Yuya Watanabe and Kenji Samura standing up there, the 2 of them. Hall of Famer Samura with his 6 Pro Tour top 8s. Yuya Watanabe, a double player of the year. Between the 2 of them, you think they must surely pilot themselves into at least the top 16 and probably further. We're talking about Hall of Fame. Here's another Hall of Famer. It's Jelge Wiegersma of the Netherlands, sitting opposite on this side of the table. Thomas Hendricks, one of the great up-and-comers in Pro Magic right now. And it's worth remembering that Jelge's Pro Tour title came in teams 2004 in Seattle with Team Von Dutch. And on the far side, well, that's Team Serbia, led by Miodrag Kitanovic. You've got Alexa Talarov just on the left there in the black shirt. And of course, Alexa's been to this event over and over and over again. They are in tremendous shape. They're the 3rd seed in Group E, top 8 last year. Now, one of the great stories of the weekend, this is Team Malta, their very first appearance in the World Magic Cup, only defeated once yesterday, ended up with 3 wins, 3 draws and 1 loss. And then beyond them, it's Paul Jackson and Team Australia in the Taylor Swift shirt. Good call, Paul Jackson. So that's Team Australia, and they are in Group G. They're the bottom seed, William Liu and Lewis Risk, the rest of the team with Joseph Sclazero there. As we head on down, and let's take a look at Team Belarus here. They did very well to make it in, and they are in as a top seed, no less. They Yevgeny Zakharenkov. He's played in all 4 of the World Magic Cups. And then, again, one of the big favorites on the far side, it's Team Denmark. On the far side of view as you look is Martin Muller and Daniel Lind. And on the near side, Christopher Larsen and Pro Tour champion Martin Dang. They are the 3rd seed in Group B, 6 million people in Denmark, a reasonably small Magic community, and a tremendous effort, chance to become a double team winner. On we go then. It's Argentina and Mexico. Mexico first. We've still got the phenomenal hat. I want one of those. Mexico, 3rd seed in Group D. They were in the top 16 last year. And as for Argentina, well, they're led by Nicolas de Nicola. They are the bottom seed in Group C, which includes Brazil, Thailand, and Guatemala. The last match for them will be against Brazil. Brazil against Argentina will be coming your way at the back end of this morning. So now, one of the top seeds, it's Austria. They're the top seed in Group E. You see Valentin Mackel there on the left and Nikki Eigner. And the rest of the team, Sebastian Fibala-Ilitz and Christophe Alcantara. And then on the far side, well, this is France. Again, a top seed. Now, Hicham Tajidi and Fathi Benaribi haven't played at Pro Tour level before, but you've got a really good captain in Pierre Dajon, and France are the top seeds in Group F, along with Poland, Netherlands, and the Philippines. That actually looks like a really tough group. So then if we head across, his team, Hong Kong, and this is Li Shichan standing up there in the MTG Mint card shirt. He's very much the team leader, and you can see he is very much dominating the early stages of team build. And then on the far side of this table, it's Team Italy. They had a terrific start to the day yesterday, but they come in now as a number 3 seed in a group that includes Paraguay, Turkey, and Australia. William Pizzi has 10 Grand Prix top 8s, alongside the big 2 of Marco Camiluzzi and Andrea Mengucci, you can see there. So we head on down and let's take a look here at Team Scotland. A tremendous performance. They were sweating last night to see whether they made it in and kept the streak alive. One of the very few countries to have made every day 2 of the World Magic Cup. 4 times they've done it. Terrific performance by the Scots again yesterday. And over there we've got New Zealand. There's Jason Chung standing up, the team captain, top 8, of course, in 2013 with Walker McMurdo, I think, was in that team. So we head on round. Here's the Greek team, the finalists from last time. Last year, they snuck in to day 2 in 32nd place. This time, again, bottom seed, they're 29th. They finished top 32, top 16, and 2nd last year. Can they go one better? They're still in it. And here's Guatemala, the very distinctive team, 3rd seed in Group C, alongside Argentina, Thailand, and the top seeds, Brazil. And they are always in that astonishing outfit. You always know where to find them in the room. So next we come to the Philippines. They were very much the last team to arrive, barely made it to deck building yesterday, but in plenty of time today. Ronnie Paul Bealey is the captain for them. They're the bottom seed in Group F that includes France, Poland, and the Netherlands. And then on the far side of them, we've got Chinese Taipei, the original World Magic Cup champions. You're looking at Wang Haoshan, the captain there. 3 years ago, he watched Su Qingguo, his good friend and traveling companion, win the tournament, and he went, I want a piece of that action. And then finally, if we head on across, here's the Latvian team led by Andre Prost, based in America. He's busy building Black Blue right now, and they've got 2 million people in their population. This is their first day 2 here at the World Magic Cup. A great job. And last but certainly not least, it's the Turks, up and coming, led by Osman Ozguni. He's got over 60% win rate at the Grand Prix level. And that is the 32 teams here building feverishly as we get towards day 2 in the World Magic Cup. It's me. Great job. Here's not me, Brian David Marshall. You've been out on the floor during the build, looking at some of the teams, getting a sense of what people are doing, and just trying to gauge their excitement level about the cards they open, because they have no control over their 12 boosters, and it means a ton to so many teams. So where did you go and what can you tell us?
Well, I was watching Brazil build, and it was kind of interesting. They at some point had 4 monocolored decks laid out. not shells that they were trying to figure out. So they were trying to figure out which is their strongest base. They had like a mono blue devoid looking deck with like multiple sky spawners and Ruination Guide and all sorts of blue cards. They had a red deck laid out. They had an almost mono green deck laid out. They had a white deck laid out.
This is Group C, right? So this is Brazil, Thailand, Guatemala, and Argentina.
Yeah.
Which, because of the way the pool play works, the third round will be Brazil against Argentina.
Yes.
That's going to be an entertaining one if one of them needs
break
to
out
win.
your jerseys.
Absolutely. Okay.
And so they ended up in red, white, green, red, converge, and blue, black, devoid. And the blue, black, devoid deck looks spectacular. I thought there. Argentina also actually ended up with a very, very solid, double Ruination Guide, multiple Sky Spawner deck. So,
nice.
We could see some really powerful decks. They actually had a green-black beatdown deck, Argentina, which I thought was really not something I saw. Usually when you see the green-black deck happen, it's because you're trying to get to your Eldrazi, right? You're playing all these like Scion generators to try to play your 7s, your 8s, maybe even your 10s.
Right.
But their curve was pretty tight.
This is all about snapping Gnarlids.
They had snapping Gnarlids and they had voracious Nulls and they had
voracious. Wow. Okay.
and they had a couple of Scion generators, but it was really it was a beatdown deck.
Right. Sort of incidentally, my Carrier Thrall is really just a 2-power guy for 2. Okay. Well, that'll be interesting to see how that works out.
We talked about how yesterday it didn't seem like there was a lot of red-white allies. It seemed like that had gone down. But actually today, when I was looking around, it felt like most of the teams, at least at the point where I was looking at them, because again, people are constantly moving their cards around, had a red-white allies deck, and both Brazil and Argentina ended up with those. Very similar overall.
The thing with the allies, let's not forget that traditionally at a Pro Tour, when it's draft, we imagine that at least half the field will have found a way to do 10, 15, 20 drafts. There are not many teams who came into yesterday having done 10, 15, 20 sealed team builds. Plenty of people would have had conversations and done 1 or 2 on the plane on the way here. But that depth of repetition isn't something that necessarily happened, except, as you mentioned, Macedonia.
Macedonia had a ton of practice, but also Brazil is a team that got to do that because they had the super team where they had 4 teams all in a house. It was Brazil, Italy, Canada, and the United States, and so they would build a team sealed. Everyone would build a team sealed, and then they would all sort of like rotate the team sealed pool. Undo the decks. Here's this pool. What did you guys do with it? And so they got actually a lot of different perspectives on the same pools with very, very high-end pro thinking applied to each pool.
Well, we mentioned Macedonia. They've got a fairly sensible green-black deck. They have a fairly typical blue-white Flyers deck. But they do have one deck of awesome, and that is red-blue, and their deck there just looks tremendous. But we are going to start, of course, in pool play. Every match so important. And in this first round, the 3 seed plays the 4 seed, and the 1 seed plays the 2 seed. So where are we going to head? We are going to head for Germany against Japan. That's how we kick off day 2 here at the World Magic Cup.
Hello there, welcome to the booth here in Barcelona. Marshall Sutcliffe with Ian Duke, and we're ready for day 2 of the World Magic Cup. We've got 3 rounds of Team Sealed, followed up by 3 rounds of Team Unified Standard, and we've got a really nice feature match lined up here early. We've got Germany versus Japan. The players are ready in the feature match area. Let's head down. Hello and welcome to coverage of the World Magic Cup. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Ian Duke, and we're ready for day 2 action. It's round number 8. We're back in Team Sealed. The players played to a 32-team pool play today. And we're ready to go down in the feature match area where we have a really nice matchup. Germany versus Japan. You can see Christian Seibold here. He is the team captain for Germany, playing against the other team captain on the other side. That's from Japan, of course, Yuya Watanabe. You get a look at Watanabe-san there as he gets ready. Now, I can tell you that Christian Seibold has mulligan to 6 here, Ian, so he's going to be down a card and on the play in this opening match. He is playing a green-black deck that they put together that splashes white. Yuya is on blue-white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Seibold's kind of a converge deck in a way, splashing multiple other colors for, we'll see, a couple interesting cards.
Yeah, you can see that Cinderglade there. That, don't be deceived. They're not actually playing red cards. That's just for incidental value when it comes to converge. Ooh, here's one of the ideal 3-drops, really in the whole format, and certainly in Christian's deck. This is Drana, Liberator of Malakir. So this is going to create major issues for Yuya Watanabe if he doesn't have an answer for Drana quite quickly.
Yeah, Drana's one of those cards that can just, snowball a game and just run away with it starting on turn 4.
Interesting to see if Seibold's going to actually attack with Drana here, as Yuya has declined to play anything on turn 3. And a card like Gideon's Reproach is certainly something that Seibold's going to be considering here. Oh, he's jamming. He's getting in there with both of them. Yuya's going to block and take some damage, so there is no Gideon's Reproach here. And like you said, Ian, this is where things can start to snowball out of control pretty quickly here in Seibold's direction. He's even got a 4-mana play here. He's going to play Unified Front.
Yeah, that's one of the cards that Seibold is splashing for. He's actually gotten quite a nice mana draw here. He had double black for Drana on turn 3. He's got the Cinderglade and his 1 plains. So access to 4 colors as well as double black. Just about as good of a draw as you could hope for, rebounding from that mulligan to 6.
And this is a deadly combination as well. It looks like Yuya is going to play Anticipate in response, but that means that Unified Front is resolving. Now, under a lot of circumstances, getting the 3 allies would be pretty good. You'd be happy with that, and you could move your game plan forward. But with Drana, Liberator of Malakir on the battlefield, it is gross. We're going to be looking for something like a sheer drop here from Yuya Watanabe. LC is going to fall woefully behind in this game.
Now, it looks like he does have Dampening Pulse, which is a card that's quite good in this situation. It's not going to be a permanent solution, but it can at least stem the tide a little bit.
God, for what, a turn?
Yeah.
I mean, he is so far up against it here. Like, even if he plays Dampening Pulse, he's still taking a damage off of the soldiers, or excuse me, the allies. Oof. This is a good start for Seibold and Team Germany here. Yeah, it looks like Watanabe instead is going to play a Courier Griffin, get back a little bit of that life. But the problem that he faces here is that the damage has already been done. Drana has already grown by a +1/+1 counter, meaning that she can safely attack right into that Courier Griffin.
Yeah, the Courier Griffin will be able to pick off an ally, though, in the attack.
That's
which
true.
At least helps a little bit. I mean, make no mistake, Yuya is pretty far behind here, but he's trying to cobble together what he can.
Here's a Pilgrim's Eye to start things off for Seibold. He will want to attack, though, with all of his creatures. The only creatures that get the +1/+1 counters from Drana are the ones that are attacking. She rewards those who follow her into battle. I think is the flavor you guys were going for on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's great.
Ooh, and Zilliport Cutthroat joins the team as well.
As well. So. This draw from Seibold has been really good.
That's going to mean 2 things. First of all, the ally token that could be picked off by the Courier Griffin here is going to represent even more damage from the Zilliport Cutthroat. And also, once Seibold gets in a couple attacks and Yuya starts getting low, even if Yuya is able to start picking off Seibold's creatures, once his life total is low, that Zilliport Cutthroat is going to represent sort of a hard lock on what Yuya is able to do with the rest of the game.
So Yuya's going to throw the Fortified Rampart in front of the Carrier Thrall and very kindly help out with the dice there for the Drana trigger. Like you said before, Ian, one of the allies does get gobbled up here, but not a lot stopping Christian Seibold here. Then you look at Yuya's side, he's had a reasonable draw here, right? He played an Anticipate, he played a Fortified Rampart, he's played a Courier Griffin, nothing super powerful, but draw from Seibold savagely outclassing that of Yuya Watanabe here.
Definitely.
Early.
Yeah, generally speaking, the blue-white deck is happy to go turn 2 Fortified Rampart into a flyer on turn 3 or 4. Usually Fortified Rampart can hold the fort, but not in this case. So we'll see what Yuya can come up with here.
Yeah, at this point, Christian, you know, he'll be thinking about, though, realizing he can't do much about a planar outburst, but he's kind of hoping, hopefully you don't have that.
Right.
But, you know, not really much strategically to be put into that. Also, I think by now he knows that that is not the case. Yuya is kind of deep in the tank here.
I mean, the other thing here is Christian Seibold was on a mulligan to 6 here, so he really doesn't have a lot of wiggle room to try to play a longer game, especially against a blue-white deck. He's just going to get out card advantage. So, you know, thinking back to on turn 4 when he attacked with Drana into Gideon's Reproach mana, he was probably just thinking, you know, hey, I'm not going to win a long game anyway, so I just got to go for it and hope that Yuya doesn't have an answer. And sure enough, Yuya did not have an answer there. Down comes Dampening Pulse for Yuya, which will slow down the damage that he's taking, but not really provide a permanent answer here. Those creatures are still going to keep growing with Drana.
Yeah, everything's just really been perfect for Seibold here. I mean, remember, he even has that Pilgrim's Eye there. That starts to become a reasonable threat on its own. A nice draw there from Seibold as well. He drew his copy of Ruinous Path, one of the better rares in the set. And he's even got the mana to cast it. He does not have the mana to awaken with it, it seems, but don't know if it matters. I can tell you that since we're in a team competition, we do have 3 matches going on simultaneously here for our teams. And Tamada finds himself up a game over Hotman on table C. That's our back table. All right, and Seibold. Yeah, well, he's going to fire off the Ruinous Path, and that is going to prompt the concession from Watanabe. He knows he doesn't have any outs left in his deck to overcome that brutal draw. And Germany's going to pick up their first game here on table B. We'll be back right after these messages.
It's the place to go for all your Magic accessories. With card sleeves, deck boxes, play mats, and portfolios showing off the best Magic art, Ultra Pro is the standard in safe storage. Visit ultrapro.com for more information.
The Magic Online Championship Series is underway. Start earning your way to the Magic Online Championship now. For more details, visit mtgo.com.
Welcome back to the feature match area here in Barcelona. Let's jump over to table A, where we have Tobias Erzman. He's playing against Kenji Samura. Yes, this Japanese team is stacked. I think it was, most people thought that the Japanese team coming into the competition was the best team. And why not? They really do have an absolutely stacked team this year. Also, one thing I want to mention, pretty interesting, there have been 3 countries over the course of the years that have won world team competitions, and these are 2 of them right here. Germany, that have won multiple world team competitions is what I meant to say, like 2 or more. And Japan and Germany are 2 of them. United States being the 3rd. So we're jumping in here, and we see Kenji Samura on 4 life against Erzman. Now, Tobias is playing blue-red, one of the best 2-color combinations in the set. And Kenji Samura has his version of the green-black with converged stuff deck going on here, similar to what Seibold was playing.
Yeah, Kenji's deck looks pretty sweet. I think that's a copy of From Beyond down there in the bottom.
That's correct.
Right side of the viewing area there.
Card's great.
Oh,
I love
yeah,
that card.
super awesome card. It's one of my first favorite cards to like first pick in the
Me too.
BFC draft and just build around it, draft some sweet Eldrazi.
I'm the same.
So it looks like Kenji coming in with attack here. Kenji definitely lower on the life total. Looks like he's got a nice longer game set up here. However, Tobias Arisman does have a copy of Valakut Invoker.
Wow, and that was actually game Ornreef Invoker just got activated there.
Oh, I see.
7/7 with Trample all of a sudden. And the blocks weren't there for Tobias Arisman, so he's going to scoop him up, and I think that was game. So it looks like Kenji Samura picks up his game. That means that Tamada and Samura have both won their game 1s. Yuya Watanabe lost his game 1 to Seibold. And we will be heading back to Table C, it looks like.
You know, I really like seeing these black-green based decks in Team Sealed, Marshall. It's an archetype that some players have said is hard to put together in draft, just to get the critical mass of, you know, either your token sacrifice synergies or big Eldrazi to get to use your science to get up to. But in Team Sealed with the deeper card pool, you know, the synergies come together a little bit stronger. And I've seen quite a few teams leaning on that archetype throughout the weekend here.
All right, we're actually going to jump back to our middle table there where we have Yuya Watanabe and Christian Seibold facing off here. They're just finishing up shuffling. The others are in sideboarding.
And these two players, both their team captains, well-known pro players who have been on the Pro Tour for many years now. Sort of representative of the matchup between these two juggernaut teams.
Looking at Yuya's deck list here, what kind of answers does he have? Let's say that, let's say Seibold ends up with that Drana down on turn 3 or turn 4 again this game. What does it look like for Yuya?
Yeah, I've been looking through Yuya's deck list and potential sideboard options. It is really hard for his deck to answer a go wide strategy. If Seibold's able to get a bunch of token makers out and pump them up in some way, like Drana or you know, some other kind of Tajiru Warcaller, Tajiru Beastmaster type card. Yuya's deck is more adept at answering large single threats, you know, with cards like the Fortified Rampart, Stalling at the Ground, some of the white removal spells like Sheer Drop. So I think this actually could be, despite Yuya's deck looking very solid, this could be a bad matchup for him.
Okay, he does have one Gideon's Reproach in his list. He'll be happy if he can see that in his opener. But we are underway here, so let's get going on Seibold versus Watanabe, game 2. And Azulaport Cutthroat's going to start things off for Christian Seibold. Ooh, and a nice start here for Yuya as well. He's got a Benthic Infiltrator at the ready.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Yuya has too many ways to take advantage of the ingest ability on Benthic Infiltrator, but, you know, it is a Horned Turtle that's unblockable, basically, so it holds down the fort and can get in some chip damage as the game goes along, which is basically what Yuya's deck wants to do.
Here's a Pilgrim's Eye now for Seibold. His mana looked absolutely fantastic when we were looking over the list, didn't it, Ian?
Yeah, I've been really impressed. Seems like he's built his deck well, his mana base well. He's got some nice ways to take advantage of multiple colors with some Converge cards, as we saw the Unified Front last game. And it seems like, you know, his mana's pretty smooth. He hasn't been tripping over it, despite the double black cost on Drana last turn. He was able to curve out very, very nicely, and it looks like he'll do the same this game.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, he's playing 3 colors, and then he has a couple of incidental 4th colors in there as well for Converge reasons. He's also playing Spawning Bed. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, his mana's that good. He's got double Evolving Wilds, a Fertile Thicket, a Canopy Vista. The Cinderglade we saw earlier doesn't actually fix his mana for his castable spells. And then the Pilgrim's Eye as well.
Yeah, it looks like he's very much the tokens deck. He's also got a copy, his own copy of From Beyond, as we saw Kenji Samura on the opposite side in another match having that as well in his black-green deck.
Yuyu's going to attack with his Benthic Infiltrator, which is going to actually get that Spawning Bed we were just talking about ingested, and a nice follow-up play here for Yuya. So this has been good. This is both players using up their mana in the early stages and kind of developing their boards out as Courier Griffin hits for Watanabe. He passes a turn back, and there's a Giant Mantis, which is going to hold the fort here And everything's pretty locked up outside of that Benthic Infiltrator at this point. I got to figure that benefits Seibold. He does have Grip of Desolation in his hand, Ian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, Giant Mantis is one of the story cards of this weekend. We've been seeing teams make really, really good use of this since the blue-white combination is so popular. The green decks are making a ton of use out of Giant Mantis. It's just, it blocks basically all the common and uncommon blue and white flyers, and it's just really, really hard for those decks to get through. Most of the white removal, things like Sheer Drop don't really affect Giant Mantis very well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting adaptation that these players have had to make. Some have done a better job of it than others, in that when you play Booster Draft for this set, you don't see a lot of Giant Mantis floating around. It's just not a card that you see on the battlefield that often. And so that kind of clears the way for the blue-white deck to kind of have the skies clear for the most part. But here in Team Sealed, we have seen a lot of Giant Mantis, and that has made this blue-white deck, it's brought it down a notch. It's really interesting to see that dynamic play out here. Here's Brood Butcher now for Christian Seibold.
Ooh,
So
nice development for him. It also looks like he picked up his copy of Drana that turn as well. So we could be seeing a similar sort of assault setup from Christian Seibold.
All right, and it does in fact resolve. Yuya wanted to make sure that he got that Anticipate resolved before the Brood Butcher actually hit the floor, but it did. And like you said, this is getting ugly. There's a Smite the Monstrous off the top for Yuya, and that does not look good here either. It can't hit anything on board.
Brood Butcher, a card that a blue-white deck is really hard-pressed to deal with.
Yes.
It's great at taking out small-ish or medium-sized flyers, and again, it's not really susceptible to any of the white removal. Doesn't need to get in combat, so Gideon's Reproach can't hit it. Doesn't need to become tapped, so Sheer Drop can't hit it. So it's just going to sit there and kind of threaten the board for quite some time, I think we can assume.
And at this point, Yuya Watanabe has stopped attacking with his Benthic Infiltrator as he adds a Courier Griffin to his side of the board and passes the turn back to Seibold. Things are looking good for Christian here. This board looks relatively evened up, right? The Brood Butcher can't actually kill anything without sacking multiple creatures at the moment, so it's not, completely destroying Watanabe's board. But I got to say that Seibold feels like he's significantly ahead here, given what we know he has in his hand and the fact that he's already ahead on board as well.
Yeah, Seibold's hand's super powerful here. He's got 2 removal spells in Demon's Grasp and Grip of Desolation, and 2 bomb creatures that can pump up his team, Drana, Liberator of Malakir, and Tajuru Warcaller. So I'm interested to see what he goes for this turn.
I wouldn't be surprised if he just played out Drana here. Right, getting Drana on the battlefield is a really nice start, and it actually combos quite well with Brood Butcher as well because Drana has First Strike. So
that's true.
You can put First Strike damage on a creature. Oh, man.
Looks like he does go for the Warcaller.
Here we go. Yuya says, yes, it resolves. I'm not happy about it, though. And here comes the team.
Yeah. The Warcaller makes all those 1/1 creatures match up very nicely against Courier Griffins.
And this will be the first time I think I've seen this if it happens next turn, but Drana's an ally.
Yes, that is
she
true.
She triggers the Warcaller.
That is true. That's very cool.
Oh, man. Yeah, this has been a tough one for Watanabe, who, again, has had 2 reasonable draws here. It wasn't like he hasn't done anything these games. It's just the stuff that Seibold's done has matched up particularly well against Yuya's strategy, and also Seibold's had some nice draws here, too.
So I think what we'll see out of Yuya here is a double block on one of the 1/1 creatures made 3/3 by Tajuru Warcaller, trying to take that out, and the Benthic Infiltrator just stemming some of the damage here. The Brood Butcher did get into combat here, which means Yuya will be able to respond to it with Sheer Drop on the following turn.
Okay.
So this means a lot of damage coming in for Yuya here, but I think he needs to take the damage and look toward bettering his board position in the long term. Otherwise, he's just going to lose to, repeated triggers of Tajuru Warcaller and Zulaport Cutthroat and so on.
Yeah, was that 12 damage that he just took? Just in combat?
Yes, looks like 12.
Wow, and then you get to trigger from the Zulaport Cutthroat as well?
Yeah, so it should knock him down to 11, I believe.
Goodness sakes. So Yuya's got some business to take care of here for sure. And he's going to go for Sheer Drop on the Brood Butcher with Awaken, which is going to give him an additional blocker this turn as well.
Or so he thinks. However, Grip of Desolation is well poised to take out Awakened lands.
Yeah, I think that the picture on Grip might be more like a hand reaching out for a handshake rather than a smash, because that is... This is what Grip of Desolation was born to do, right? Kill effectively 2 creatures at once.
One of the reasons why this card is considered, if not the best, one of the best commons in the set.
Uncommons, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, uncommons, yeah.
I know you knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it crept up and up and up, you know, eventually targeting Rolling Thunder and in many players' views, surpassing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the ability to take out lands in a format with Awaken, a format with Converge, and a format with Giant Eldrazi, where players want to get up to 6, 7, 8, 9 lands.
Yeah.
Super powerful
And
card.
then the times when you get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just killed 2 creatures there. Yu Yu Watanabe, his hands kind of went up like, oh, not that. Anything but that. Update from our back table as well. Alexander Hutman has tied things up against Ryuichi Tamada. They're at 1 game apiece over there. In the meantime, Ghostly Sentinel is going to hit the battlefield and attempt to stabilize here for Yu Yu Watanabe. But this is just gross. That is a trigger. That is also Demon's Grasp. And in comes the team once again. And as we mentioned before, Drana triggering the Tadru Warcaller. And that does, in fact, earn the handshake. So Christian Seibold wins his match 2-0 over Yu Yu Watanabe here on Table B. That's 1 to the good for Team Germany here.
Really awesome showing from Christian Seibold's black-green-based token Converge deck there.
Oof. Wow, that deck looked great.
Yeah.
Good matchup for him, though, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as we said earlier, Yuya's deck is better at staving off, like, you know, one big threat at a time by blocking and cards like Sheer Drop and so on, maybe trying to get through with flyers, but doesn't really react well to the swarm strategy.
Okay, so let's jump back down to Table A, where we have Kenji Samura. He's playing against Tobias Erisman, and once again, Tobias is playing the blue-red deck for their pool. We've seen a lot, like most of the pools produce one very good Devoid-style deck, and we see that here from Tobias. Kenji Samura is on black-green, similar again to what we saw from Christian Seibold. Tobias kicks things off with a Mist Intruder, but it gets immediately plummeted by Kenji Samura, not messing around at all.
That's a lot of respect for a Stormcrow, don't you think, Marshall?
Yeah, it really is. You know, it's that first ingest, right?
Yeah.
That's what he wants to avoid here. It's not the damage. It's just he doesn't want to let the ingest train start rolling. And that actually worked. Even though the follow-up play was Eldrazi Sky Spawner for Erisman, which is really good, it doesn't have ingest. So any of those synergies are going to remain shut off, at least for the time being. Oran Reef Invoker for Kenji Samura is what he came up with for his turn 3 play, and the hits keep coming here for Tobias. He makes a Nettle Drone now. Samura's hand looks really good. Complete disregard there.
Yeah,
And a
Smothering Abomination. Yeah, a card that's really powerful in the black-green archetype.
And he's going to just run it out there. This is going to put a lot of pressure here on Erisman to find an answer for it pretty quickly. This is the kind of thing where this can go a little sideways for Samura. If, for example, Tobias were to kill the Invoker, then Samura would be likely forced to sacrifice the Abomination. Now, in this particular scenario, that's not actually the case, as Samura has Grave Birthing in his hand. So he can produce a sackable creature on his upkeep, even if his other one were to die. But it is a fine balance to walk here for Samura with the Smothering Abomination. He's forced to sacrifice a creature on every upkeep, and that means that sometimes It's the abomination itself. Now, one thing that we did see on day one is that, you know, there are times when you're okay with that. It actually isn't the end of the world if you have to play a Smothering Abomination and then sacrifice it on your upkeep. It usually does something in the way of blocking or interrupting your opponent's plan, and you do get the card back again. Not the dream that you have when you put it together, but there it is. Ooh, this is interesting.
Yeah, Adverse Conditions, a pretty nice response to Smothering Abomination.
Yes.
Keeping it locked down, well, all the while it's sacrificing creatures.
And a second copy of Complete Disregard off the top for Samura here, and things are getting interesting. He kind of is being forced into two different directions here, as he'd like to keep his Smothering Abomination around and keep the cards flowing off the top of his library, but at the same time, starting to use the Complete Disregards that he has in his hand looks pretty tempting as well. Looks like Seek the Wilds here for Samura, though. God, look at that. Yuya Watanabe and Kenji Samura working together. Tobias Arisman's like, I did not sign up for this.
Yeah.
I mean...
And Pro Tour finalist Ryuichi Tamada.
Is he back there too? See him.
Not at the table right now,
like,
but
look
as
at
far
those
as
two right
oh sure,
there.
yeah, facing off a two-headed giant against two of the legendary Japanese pro players.
Now, Seibold has jumped over to help Arisman out, so it's a fair fight here, but goodness sakes. Hall of Famer versus possible future Hall of Famer here. Whispering in each other's ear. It's going to be a tough sell to beat these two gentlemen. All right, so this trigger goes on the stack on upkeep, as Kenji did use Complete Disregard on the Nettle Drum.
So Grave Birthing makes a Scion, picks up a card. The Scion gets sacrificed to the Smothering Abomination, picking up another card, and then there's the card for the draw. But despite all the cards in his hand, Kenji Samura is pretty far behind on board here.
Absolutely. He is clinging to this Smothering Abomination as his last creature still. He's got another Complete Disregard at the ready here.
And Tobias Arisman actually looking a little bit light on gas here, just a couple of lands in his hand.
Yeah, most of his stuff's on the table here. He has curved out quite beautifully. Yeah, Samura's hand, pretty awkward. He really needed some type of token maker to make this work. He has a Bone Splinters in his hand. That's not doing much here either. But this actually worked out pretty well for Kenji, as he took 3 damage and fell to 4. He did get to eat an Eldrazi Sky Spawner with his Smothering Abomination there. He also used Complete Disregard to take out an Incubator Drone, and now he's going to sack the Smothering Abomination to draw a card on his upkeep here, as well as his draw step. So, you know, all told, like, this is a big turn for him. He could absolutely stabilize this board, because as you said a few minutes ago, and bang, there we go, Ruin Processor.
That's just what he needs here. Not only does it stabilize the ground, but also gaining him a life, putting himself out of burn range.
Totally. And you mentioned it a minute ago here, Ian. Tobias is kind of out of gas, right?
Yeah. This is huge for Kenji.
Yeah, Tobias has Mountain in hand as he goes to his draw step here. The great curve out from him did have Samura down to 4 life with no creatures in play. Oh, what did he draw? He drew his own Ruin Processor
Wow.
off the top. Oh, there's a Conduit of Ruin now for Kenji Samura. I wonder if he has any more action to find. Let's consult the deck list here, Ian, and see what kind of beef Kenji's working with here at the top. Oh, he's got an Eldrazi Devastator in there, too. So he can keep going. And look at this. They're having fun. Did you see those smiles? That's great.
Yeah, it looks like Kenji's deck is really hitting its stride here. With all those cards in his hand that he built up with that Smothering Abomination earlier, now he finally has the breathing room to start casting them. So things could start swinging in Kenji's favor here very quickly.
Yeah, he maneuvered this game beautifully, just riding that thin wave there with the Smothering Abomination for so many turns and then finally cashing it in. And now look at him. Using up all of his mana for the turn once again.
And with Bone Splinters at the ready to take out Tobias Erisman's Rune Processor.
Yeah, Bone Splinters usually falls into the kind of necessary evil camp when it comes to removal, where you're like, you just got to have an answer sometimes to the big things that your opponent can do. But in these token decks, it really shines. Bone Splinters can just be great.
Yeah, it's great with cards like From Beyond and Eyeless Watcher and things like that.
Yeah. Again, Samura's draw hasn't really been conducive to that. Like he hasn't seen a whole lot of token makers, and he could have used in this game, but he's maneuvered it such that he didn't need them. Is this going to be Conduit here for Samura?
Oh, it looks like a Brood Monitor
he
pickup.
found a Brood Monitor.
So that's enormous. That's the tokens that he needs to sacrifice to Bone Splinters and enough ground defense that I think we'll see Kenji's Rune Processor start to attack here. Maybe even the Kozilek's Channeler as well. Looks like that is the case. So just where Kenji wants to be. He wants to end this game quickly. Now that he's finally stabilized, he's starting to get ahead with Big Eldrazi. He wants to just, close out this game before something like a Rolling Thunder can come off the top.
He's just equalized life totals.
Yeah, this is going to put Tobias Erisman in chump block mode pretty quickly and really shut the door on any kind of
Rolling Thunder is the card I think that Samura has to be worried about here, right?
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the deck list to see if that's something that Tobias Erisman has access to. It looks like that he does not.
Yeah, I wonder if you actually start even just getting in with Lifespring Druid here to cut that avenue off.
It's possible, yeah.
Just trade it off for a Scion. Because right now, Erisman has enough Scions plus lands to Rolling Thunder for 8. If he had Rolling Thunder in his hand and just needed a land, for example. But I think Kenji can actually force chumps here and take that option off the table. But that's the kind of thing that's going to be going through Watanabe and Samura's head as they're like trying to close the door on this game and make sure that they can't lose. They fully turned the corner.
So this attack is going to force 2 jump blocks, importantly. Without the Lifespring Druid attacking, it wouldn't necessarily force 2 jumps.
There you go. And there's that Conduit of Ruin as well. He's not going to search up anything, just pass the turn back and present another huge threat. They know that in the colors that Erisman is in, there's no risk to overcommitting to the board here, and that is going to prompt the scoop here. And Kenji Samura wins his match for Japan.
So that evens things up, right?
Correct, yeah. Seibold won on table B, and Samura wins on table A, which means at 1 match apiece, we have 1 decider to go on our back table. Table C, that's Alexander Hotman versus Ryuichi Tamada.
This has been an awesome match so far, Marshall.
Yeah, this has been
really
great.
exciting.
And by the way, they're going to game 3 here as well. Tamada's on red-green, which is a deck that, again, echoing what we were talking about before about not seeing some of these cards in booster draft as often, red-green has really kind of found its home here in Team Sealed, where it seems like you can get critical mass of these landfall creatures and outnumbers and such and kind of make that work. On the other side of the table, Alexander is playing blue-white, which, again, is a deck we're pretty accustomed to seeing. And by Alexander, I mean the entire German team, because they are now all huddled around him and helping Hotman out here. Hotman's got a young career going, but he's played 9 GPs and he's got 2 top 8s in that span. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Yeah, just 2 PT starts from there. but that's a very solid start. You can take a look at him there, flanked by his German teammates. It is funny to see how this interaction happens too as well, Ian, because some players take kindly. They have a sense of relief when they can double check their actions and get through, and other players get a little flustered. You know, having somebody look at you, watch every play you make, and maybe correct you or guide you in a different direction than you wanted to go can be it can be tough to play under.
Definitely, yeah. When you get two conflicting approaches to a game, two conflicting lines of play, it can be worse than just choosing one or the other. Whichever one is better, whichever one is worse. Often it's better to just pick one and go with it. And it takes a real, team synergy in order to make sure you're all on the same page and not conflicting with each other, having the trust to let someone make their own choices.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see, for example, the German team just use Seibold as an advisor here, and that way it keeps the number of voices in the room down.
Yeah, you want to avoid the too many cooks kind of problem, right?
Exactly. Now, if I was on Team Japan, though, I would just look at Yuya Watanabe and be like, was that right or not? or Samura. Take your pick. So this is tightening coils.
Pretty aggressive start from Ryuichi Tamada here, snapping Narlid into Endless One on 3 counters, but tightening coils takes out the Endless One.
I like the coat there for Tamada, too. He looks bundled up. All right, Broodhunter Worm is going to make an appearance here as well. So this is just good old-fashioned green beatdowns. 2, 3, 4 here. Endless One kind of filling in that curve slot at 3 and putting a lot of heat on Alexander Hotman, who hasn't done much here.
Yeah, Hotman would love to see something like a fortified Rampart here, something along those lines, but looks like without any proactive plays here, I have to imagine he's leaving up some kind of removal.
He is. It's Gideon's Reproach in this case.
Okay. Although that's pretty awkward with his hand. He's basically spending all of his turn 4 casting this Gideon's Reproach. I'm sure he would have loved to play that Hedron Archive in his hand or even the Shadow Glider, but, things just don't quite work out as far as mana or colored mana to do 2 things in 1 turn.
No, but he will be able to next turn. Like, for example, he can go Hedron Archive, Shadow Glider this turn. He can also just play Windrider Patrol. Belligerent Whiptail is what Tamada adds to his side of the battlefield here. Whiptail matches up poorly against the Shadow Glider, since Hotman probably wants to try to block it unless landfall happens for Tamada, in which case that is not the case. Ooh, Undergrowth Champion and a land.
Wow.
Oh no, Tamada has had a great draw here. This is game 3, by the way, between these two players. Matches on the other 2 tables are 1 match apiece for Germany and Japan, so this could be Japan marching to victory here.
Yeah, things looking really good for Japan here. With just an island off the top for Alexander Hotman, that's not going to be too much help here.
This draw has not come together well for Alexander. He really needed to see, Fortified Rampart, that type of card. Look at Tamada's hand.
Oh, he's got Rolling Thunder and Outnumber? Wow.
Yeah.
So Hotman actually, that island that he did draw is his 8th land, which lets him cast Sheer Drop and Windrider Patrol to get a little bit of defense going. But with Tamada's hand there, he's got Outnumber for the Windrider Patrol or just Rolling Thunder to finish the game, depending on how the blocks go here.
Yeah, that's such a good turn, too.
Yeah.
Sheer Drop, Windrider Patrol, go. Like, that's the turn where you're supposed to stabilize and win. I love the Japanese teams having a lot of fun. Lots of smiles on that side. And predictably, the German side a little less so given the board state here, right? I mean, it's a lot more fun when you've got 3 great creatures attacking into 1 small creature here.
With a Rolling Thunder in hand.
With a Rolling Thunder. Still, I appreciate that. That it is easy to get a little caught up in all this, and it's a fun tournament. This is probably the most fun for the highest level tournaments, the team ones. You get to high fives and share the glory and the beats with your friends. Are they considering Awakening here? Is that what's going on?
Looks to be the case. Maybe just figuring they're low on resources, so they kind of want to budget out. I mean, a 3/3 land is almost as good of a blocker as the Windrider Patrol would be, and that saves the Windrider Patrol for next turn as well. But ultimately, regardless of the choice that the German team makes here, I think they're going to be in some trouble on this coming turn.
Big trouble. Pass the turn back. Again, this looks totally fine. It's Rolling Thunder, lurking in the hand for Tamada that is really going to spell doom for Hotman here.
Yeah, and I think this is actually lethal. Well, he might need a land here. So Rolling Thunder for 3. 2 can take out the Shadow Glider. 1 spills over, and then 5 damage on board. So I think as it stands, this would put Alexander Hotman to 1.
Yeah,
Okay,
and they did the math, and that does it. So Japan defeats Germany here. Congratulations are in order there from the teammates to Tamada, who's got a big smile on his face as he wears a parka down in the feature match area. I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good style for him. And Germany's going to have to come in and take a loss. Their decks look really good, and I like how they played.
Yeah.
Just a tough one there for them. Now, that's going to bump them down a little bit here. Remember, we're in pool play. So things are different today than they were yesterday. We're used to having, well, what was your record on day 1? How does it carry over? How does that mean for my tie breaks? Everything's different today, as we explained on the news desk, and we'll continue to keep you updated on as we move our way through. Welcome back to the booth here, Marshall Sutcliffe with Ian Duke. But more great stuff. I got to say, Ian, having watched 3 rounds yesterday and now a round today of Team Sealed, I want more.
Yeah, this Team Sealed format is super awesome. I think Battle for Zendikar in particular lends itself really well to the Team Sealed format with all these high synergy, different strategies that play out very differently from one another. It's almost like we were saying, it's like a mini constructed metagame in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Where, you're trying to predict what your opponents are going to do and matching up your deck well against theirs and so on.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch it. The fascinating thing for me, right, I think about Limited all the time, and that's been the differences that we've seen. I mean, we just saw a Broodhunter Worm. We saw Giant Mantis, right? I mean, these are creatures that get overlooked a little bit in booster draft, but here, it's a totally different complexion here. You get a pile of cards and you got to make something work. But the difference is in Sealed, sometimes you feel like this is the best I could come up with. But when it comes to Team Sealed, you're actually cutting cards, right? I mean, we saw very good cards leave the deck, and you're not playing that? Like, that's a good card. And it's like, I don't need it. It doesn't fit with the synergy that my deck has.
Right.
And, sometimes the synergy, as we saw from Tamada, is make big creatures. And that tends to work pretty well here. All right, that is going to do it, though, for round 8 here from the booth. Let's send it over to the news desk and Richard Hagan.
Thanks very much, Marshall. Great stuff. We've got the big board behind us with all the scores on the doors throughout the day. You won't miss a thing. Let's get to it, and we'll begin with Pool A with our number 1 seed. Let's get Pool A up on the board if we can. This is Belarus, Sweden, New Zealand, and Chile. And there we see it. Belarus wins over Sweden. The top 2 seeds play each other in every group. New Zealand defeats Chile. That's a win for Jason Chung. That takes the bottom seed, Chile. It's not in their hands anymore. The best they can do is 2-1. And if there are 3 teams on 2-1, by definition, the 2 teams would be above them. Chile would be out on seeding, because seeding matters. But New Zealand, they've dodged the first bullet. They win round 1. Sweden, yes, they've had a loss, but because they're one of the top 2 seeds, if they win their next 2, they're guaranteed through. 2-1 for a top 2 seed is certainly in. Belarus, one of the pace setters, remember, only need 1 more win to make the next phase, the top 16. Let's go to Pool B. And in Pool B, the top seed again, Macedonia wins over Iceland. Einar Baldvinsson starts off with a loss. That was the loss Iceland had to give. 2-1 gets them through. And a big result here, Scotland really snuck in. One of these Greek stories from last year, maybe. 31st place this time around for Scotland. They have beaten the defending champions Denmark. That's huge. Now Denmark is in trouble. They must go win-win and hope that they can get in on a 2-1, 2-1, 2-1 or a 3-0, 2-1. But they must win their next 2 for Denmark, so trouble for them. Pool C, let's take a look. The overall 3 seed is up next. This is Brazil. Big news there. They've been beaten by Thailand. Thailand having a great run. We'll hear from them in just a little bit. Brian David Marshall had a chat with the Thai team coming in to day 2. So Brazil in trouble, but that was their loss to give. Argentina also losing. Brazil will play Argentina in the deciding match of the pool in round 3. Thailand, Guatemala will face each other in round 3, the 2 winners here in round 1. Pool D then, let's see where we go next. Well, we go to Germany, Japan. We've watched Japan do the business there. That Ryochi Tamada deck looks terrific. Mexico, meanwhile, have beaten Greece. Greece, again, remember they went all the way to the final last time around, but here, now out of their hands, must win twice and hope. Let's go to Pool E. And are the results in Pool E? Let's take a look. In Pool E, who do we have? That's Germany still following through. Here's Pool E. Austria are your winners. That's Valentin Mackel, Sebastian Fiala Ibitz, Christoph Alcantara, and Nikki Eigner. They had a tremendous day yesterday, very quietly, because they're not one of these super powerhouse teams. They're just 4 really, really solid players. And they've got to 1-0. 1 win out of the next 2 gets them in to the top 16. And Chinese Taipei, they were one of the bottom seeds, but the winners from 2012, Huang Haoshan and the guys, they are doing the business. They've won, so they're underway. Serbia, Alexa Telerov and Miloslav Kitanovic, they're in trouble at 0-1. Move on to Pool F if we can. And you've got France, they were the top seeds coming in, and they have won their first match over Maciej Janik, the experienced captain of the Polish team. And then the Netherlands, this is a big one, big surprise. A lot of people thought Netherlands were very well positioned coming into today. Netherlands lose their first round against the Philippines. Ronnie Bealey, the captain there. And that means that, again, for the Netherlands, they must win, and hope that the 2 teams above them, Poland and France, don't end up at 2-1 as well. Otherwise, the Netherlands would be out, even with a 2-1 record. All right, next, it's Pool G. 2 more to go. Paraguay were the top seeds, but they've lost to Turkey, one of the surprise packages yesterday. Osman Ozguni and the team, they are winners. Italy also winners. A lot of people think that they're going to do very well today. Marco Camiluzzi, the captain, Andrea Mengucci. William Pizzi has 10 GPs to his name already. And Australia, Paul Jackson, Joseph Slazero, they are in trouble. They've lost their first round and must hope for every other result in the pool to go their way. And they will certainly have to beat both Turkey and Paraguay if they're to advance. Which takes us, last but not least, to Pool H. Let's take a look at what's going on there. And in Pool H, who do we have? Let's take a look for you. We have Ukraine, Hong Kong, Latvia, and Malta. I was still looking, there we are. So Ukraine, they're the top seed. They've beaten Hong Kong. Li Shichan starts with a loss, but they're a second seed, so 2 wins will see them through. And we're still waiting on Latvia. That's Andre Prost's team, and the first timers from Malta, who only lost once yesterday. So that's the shape after round 1. In pool play round 2, the top seed, Ukraine, will play Latvia. All the 1s play all the 3s, and all the 2s play all the 4s in the middle round of our 3 rounds of pool play here in Team Sealed. So 32 teams remain. One of those is Thailand, and Brian David Marshall's been out on the floor to have a chat with them about their World Magic Cup experience.
Magic collection with the newest Battle for Zendikar accessories from Ultra Pro. You can see the full array of card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and portfolios in your favorite Magic artwork at ultrapro.com.
Put your game to the test at a Grand Prix. These open tournaments feature the best players in your region as well as top Magic pros from around the world. Upcoming Grand Prix events include Oakland, Vancouver, Mexico City, Nagoya, and Houston. Visit magic.wizards.com/Grand Prix for a complete schedule. Take the oath and retake the world in the newest Magic the Gathering set, Oath of the Gatewatch. Play in pre-release events at your local game store on January 16th and 17th, and on Magic Online starting January 29th. Visit locator.wizards.com to find a store near you. Watch the best players in the world battle on Magic's biggest stage. Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch starts February 5th in Atlanta, Georgia, featuring Modern and Oath of the Gatewatch Booster Draft. Watch all 3 days streamed live on twitch.tv/magic.
I'm here with the Thailand national team. Captain Virapurt Sirlert Vorakul just won the deciding game in his match against Brazil. You guys were the number 2 seed in your pool, in Pool C. Introduce us to the Thai national team.
Okay. Hi, I'm Virapurt. He's Jom, Ekarat, and Sutipong from Thailand team, World Magic Cup 2015.
Chom, when I talked to you guys during deck construction, you seemed very nervous about your Team Seal pool. How do you feel now after beating Brazil, the number 1 seed in your pool?
I think it was all luck too. I mean, like, we have to admit, like, our pool wasn't that great as compared to yesterday. Yesterday pool was like beyond this one. This one we tried to make our best with our deck, and I think it's also luck as well. I mean, the Brazil team, you should have seen their pool. It was incredible, to be honest. Yeah.
Your decks look pretty good. Tell me a little bit about the Magic scene in Thailand.
The Magic scene in Thailand, is a good community. We have a lot of players, mostly standard and modern. It's about 50-50 right now in Thailand. It's a really good community. Everyone help each other out. Even like we're coming to war right now. Like before we came, there's a tournament for us that hosted just to raise money for us to pay for hotel and our food and everything. So yeah, the store like basically gave away free prize, and all the entrance fee came to us for our pocket money to come here. So it's like a nice community that everyone support each other.
Nice community. That's actually an amazing story. I think that store deserves a little shout out here. Tell us about the store.
The store is called I Play Card Shop. Yep.
That's great. Obviously the community was very invested in you guys. What would it mean for Thailand to become the 4th team to win the World Magic Cup?
It would mean so much. It would create more players toward the Thai community as well. Because right now it's a nice community, but it's a small community. But if we win the World Cup, everyone will know more about it, and we would create more players.
And Team Sealed, you said you're nervous. If you get into the top 16 and you get to play Team Unified Standard again, how do you guys feel about your Team Unified Standard decks?
Still nervous. Always nervous. It's a good thing to be a little nervous, I think.
Okay, there you have it. Team Thailand here at the World Magic Cup. They're in great shape, though. They just took down the number 1 seed in their pool. 2 rounds to go here in Battle for Zendikar. Team Sealed.